Alrighty, here we are. It is me, Duke Farley, back here again on Lost at Sea. And this evening I am joined by Sam. Sam, obviously, you were a part of the draft for Lost at Sea, winner of season 10. Great to have you on the podcast. I'm going to talk about this first opening episode of season 2 of Ascendance Live. How are you doing this evening?
I'm doing great. Happy to be here. Excited to talk about the episode. I feel like, well, we'll get into it, but I just think it was a really great introduction, and I really enjoyed it.
Yes. Let's just dive right into it. I thought it's funny to watch the evolution of this series from season 1, like the editing and kind of like the whole production of it. I feel like just got elevated here, which was fun to watch. And something that was different from season 1 was the kind of walkout process from each contestant into the main area where they were being introduced. I thought that was fun, similar to like a Big Brother kind of thing. A couple of things I thought were interesting were Carson and Jake kind of didn't get the whole, I guess, no talking rule.
Yeah.
What did you think of this whole process of having them, I guess, be sequestered and walking out and seeing each other for the first time?
I loved it. I mean, I loved it for a few reasons, but like one of them being, I guess, unique to season 2, and that was like the very last reveal. Like that kind of just brought a whole new level to it. But no, I did like it, and you kind of even, it was like a quick glimpse even into everybody's personalities too, like right off the jump. So like in between, people walking out, we got those like confessional segments, and it was just a really great intro to everybody. And like we got a little bit of Paul's sense of humor when he walks in. He's like, I didn't recognize any of the 18 chairs. And then yeah, Carson too, like cracked me up. I was like, oh my gosh, like that is an awkward human. And I say that lovingly because I am an awkward human. I'm like, that would be me. It was very endearing.
It seemed like a lot of the contestants, when they got to like the turn to the everybody, they were like looking at the person who was holding the camera, like, what do I do?
Yeah. Yeah, like please help.
It was great. Which was fun. It was fun. I noted Jodalee. I think this is the first time people are seeing Jodalee unmasked. Some people didn't even recognize who Jodalee was. So that was fun to watch the reaction. Another thing I thought that was covered here in this opening segment was Drew. People's reaction to Drew, he was one of the later people revealed, was very polarizing. We had a fun Jodalee quote in reference to Drew. There was a couple of people that were excited to see Drew as well, being Ryan, Erica, and I think Thomas. So what did you think of, I know Drew's been heavily drafted high in some of these drafts. What did you think about this like polarizing entrance that he has?
I thought it was really interesting. So, well, yeah, kind of more general, my thought before it leaves my brain. I liked how throughout the introductions as well, we did kind of get to see a bit of where those connections are, like a little bit with everybody, but with Drew specifically, yeah, it was kind of like really good or really bad. It almost seemed like. So it'll just be interesting to see like if that causes a certain divide in the house where, the people that do are working with Drew or get along with Drew, whatever that is, and if there's another like group on the other side of that who have strong feelings against Drew, then maybe that goes somewhere. But yeah, no, I thought it was really interesting. So you have somebody who is really well connected, but has quite a few things to contend with, where if it's also known that he's well connected, that kind of puts a target on him.
Yeah, we'll touch a little bit more on Drew. He has an interesting episode throughout. The only other thing with the sequence was Jake. I know he mentions in his intro video that he is somewhat looking out for these people who have hosted before. I know Jake's hosted before. these live games. And as Wesley comes out, he kind of mentions him as, oh, okay, Wesley is going to be the draw of the season. He's the big threat, with him being, you know, the live host of the totem pole, now the penthouse. That was interesting for me to. That's something that now he's harped on in his intro video, and now he's mentioned in this first episode. So I think that could be a storyline too. Jake kind of sizing up Wesley, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought it was interesting that Wesley and Marvin know each other from like having randomly met at a bar in Arkansas. Cool. Like that was kind of, yeah, I was like, okay, that's kind of cool. And what else? Oh, I thought it was interesting how Eric said, like, I hope nobody knows me. So like nobody can like call me out on like the type of game that I play. And like I really related to that a lot, because like I always play my best game with strangers, you know, going in and trying to do it like with people who know you and know what you're up to. It's definitely a lot harder. So I related to that. And I'm trying to see, was there anybody else's connections that I thought were interesting? Oh yes, Keaton and Kennedy. Kennedy was like happy to see Keaton, but Keaton was like, I'm going to lose my mind when Kennedy popped up. So I was like, okay, interested to see how that evolves or plays out.
What's going on with that, right? Like,
yeah. Yeah.
But that'll be fun. That'll be fun. Keaton, another person that had a great episode, I felt like, entertaining episode. And then we kind of go into this getting to know you circle. The other thing, I mentioned it in our pre-call talking, but you know, a lot of cat people, just a lot of people lining up saying they have cats. That was basically the only thing I got from the little, here's a little 15-second, you know, of me kind of thing.
Yeah, just to clarify, because I am also a cat person, so this drew me right in, and I wrote down who the cat people are. We have Marvin, Erica, Eric, Melissa, Zoe, Kennedy, and Jodalie. Like, I would love to see a cat alliance. Yeah, I'm coining a new term. Come together. That would be great.
That'd be interesting. I don't know if that will come through, but it's something to watch for sure. And then this kind of leads right into Casino Night, which was another fun little twist that they had for the season. It's first introduced as a non-competition kind of thing, but were you kind of like, this is definitely going to be something, you know, that you want to like have money for, basically? I think Carson mentions it.
Yeah, cut to Nicole saying this is not a challenge, and then cut to Carson, this is definitely going to be for a challenge. Yeah, and so I think yeah, some people might have taken it a little bit more seriously than others in terms of like the money itself being meaningful in some way. Some people used it more as just an opportunity to socialize and get to know, you know, everybody. So I thought it was really interesting. And what was the other thing?
How would you play how would you play if you were in there? Would you have played it more along the lines of, I'm just going to play these games, try to meet as many people as possible, not really care about, you know, the whole money thing that's going on? Or would you be like kind of like wanting to rack up money at the casino?
Well, knowing the house always wins, you know? Yeah, knowing myself, I'm just not like that great like at like multitasking and gambling in general either, and like cards and stuff. So like it wouldn't be my main focus, because I knew even if it was my main focus, I probably wouldn't excel at it anyways. So yeah, I would just whose strategy was it that I wrote down? I think maybe it was Paul. Yeah, I believe it was Paul. But anyways, going from like wherever the had the most amount of people and just going to those games and like hopping throughout and just like keep doing that to talk to as many people as possible, but you're still playing, you're still participating, you're not like off in a corner somewhere looking sketchy. So I think I would take that approach. So I would play, you know, hope for the best, but just really hone in on that time to make the connections so that when game starts to happen, like you're already kind of over that first little hurdle. You kind of know who you click with.
Yeah, I think it was. I think most people were kind of along those lines. Some people kind of were a little sus of the whole "it's not a competition" thing. Like I mentioned, Carson. I thought it was interesting to hear Eric. He was like kind of looking at how people were playing the games and like if they were being like
Yeah.
strategic with like blackjack and whatnot, which I thought was super super like intuitive and whatnot. Um, but yeah, I thought that they didn't know going into it, and then once it's revealed that that we're going into an auction, it was fun to see the reaction of people. Another thing that I wanted to just quickly touch on with the casino night was some of the alumni running the games. I thought that was fun to watch. Mark
Mm-hmm.
with the blackjack, Jabbar kind of explaining Texas Hold'em. Seems like
Yeah.
he had just learned it like maybe the day before, but it was fun to watch. Stephanie running the bingo, like screaming bingo and whatnot. It was all
Yeah.
cool to
No,
see.
it was so good.
Yeah.
It's funny you mentioned the thing about the poker. I didn't even realize because like I don't really know it that well. So I was like, he's doing great. Also, shout out to Stephanie's jacket. It was sparkly and it was just like it was beautiful. I would love to
Oh
know where
yeah,
it's from.
yeah. Obviously, Stephanie, wonderful jacket. But Ryan with the out had like a
Oh my
costume on.
gosh, yes.
Not to mention that.
Yeah, no, I love that. Like, give me a reason to dress up for literally anything. I'm there with a costume. And so I was just like, yes, yes, I love that energy. Um, Actually, one conversation that happened between Melissa and Wesley, it was kind of like a quick segment in between like the different casino games and stuff. So Melissa is my first draft pick, and I think just in that short conversation really demonstrated to me like what she kind of was going in and doing what I thought she was going to go in and do, and just the way that she's engaging in a conversation with Wesley, like the eye contact, like asking questions. I think they were talking about work. She was asking what magazine he works for and whatnot, and yeah, just being able to make like a meaningful connection quickly. I just thought she was just so like endearing and warm, and yeah, so like already like I don't know if that's going to turn into a thing or if that was just a one-off conversation and their games go different directions, but yeah.
I thought, yeah, and Melissa, I think had a great episode, had a great like scene where I don't know if you caught this, but she was talking to a group of people that were playing, and I think the game was secluded from the rest of the house, and she's like, all right, we'll play this for a little bit. Now we have to go back downstairs, kind of like intermingle. So I think that was great, awareness to get with where the majority of the group of people are. And then to quickly touch on Wesley, I think Wesley was one of the people that I saw during this portion of the episode kind of having a lot of one-on-one conversations with people. I know he had that one-on-one conversation with Melissa, like you mentioned. I think he was talking to Zoe one-on-one, maybe somebody else, which I think was
Thomas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I think was a good sign to kind of start building those one-on-one connections.
Mm-hmm.
And then
and it's
go ahead.
Just to touch on what you said, like especially in the game of Ascendance, where when you're still doing teams, that you wanna if you're hoping to be picked by somebody who's picking you for the right reasons and not because you're the one that they want to pick off or whatever, the more individual strong relationships that you have, obviously like it better for you. And then if he does have that threat coming into the game, being a host, an experienced host, and just kind of knowing the lay of the land in terms of like playing an LRG, then those individual relationships will help kind of start things off on the right foot for him, with potentially like some protection that could be needed.
Absolutely. And then at the end of this, right before the auction, I just wanted to throw it in here. He pans to the camera, he found a join a vote power. I'm not really sure where he found it, but he mentions that he found it. He's going to tell us about it later, hopefully in the next episode, and that Kennedy is aware of it.
Yeah, I think he said he was cleaning, and then I guess he found it while cleaning. So yeah, that was exciting.
Being a good guy, cleaning up the stuff.
Exactly. other conversations that kind of happen in between games and stuff, Jake and Taisha were chatting a little bit, and so he had asked her like, have you played before? But like was playing it off like, he's like, I just want to make sure that like we haven't met before, and and I'm not being rude or whatever. And so they're starting to talk and talking. So it is Taisha's first LRG, as far as I know. So you know, Taisha just has this way, at least in orgs, where I've been either like in a VL or just playing with her, of being an obvious big threat because of how social and warm and just like you just want to be around her and her energy. And it's not like under the radar. It's very obvious. But despite all of that, people keep her around because people just love having her around. But like, so in Ascendance 10, for example, you know, it was always like, everybody loves her. Like, that's going to be trouble later on. And everybody's like, yeah, it will be. But we don't want to take her out right now. No, we don't. Just, you know, repeat round after round. So, you know, if, you know, word gets out early or whatever, you know, even just at least in one person's mind, Jake, oh, it's her first live game. You know, that already kind of brings that down a notch.
Yeah.
And then one other convo, but sorry, I'm gonna shut up for a minute.
What was the other combo?
It was Jodalee and Carson. So Jodalee had Carson by the hand, and I was just like, oh, he's still in my heart. Anyways, it was just really cute. So Jodalee had told Carson that he recognized him from a game that he said, like, I watched you playing this game and you're such a joy. And I just wanted to let you know that, like, I recognize you from that. I think he just maybe saw him in a cast graphic. He didn't actually, like, was not in the VL for the game or anything, but he's like, I'm just going to use that. And like, I just thought that was a really creative, like, on the spot way to, like, not that Jodalee needs any help with like connecting with people, but it was just like, I don't know, it was just so extra, but without being obviously extra. It was great. We just got to see Jodalee be Jodalee, and I like seeing Carson bond with them.
That would be such an interesting, like, if that turned out to be a duo, that'd be such an interesting duo to watch.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
There. Yeah. A lot of energy, I feel like.
Yeah. just like, yeah.
So much.
It'd be great.
Car hype train with Jodalee included.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we go into the auction now, right? Where Matty Ice throws in, you know, all right, we're going to be doing an auction with the all the tokens or coins or money, I guess. I think it was Monopoly money that they were playing with. And it seemed to me that Keaton and Zoe had the seemed to be the big rollers here, had the most coin. Oh. And right off the bat, Keaton says, I'm gonna bid up everything. The first item was, by the way. Keaton, yeah, he's craziness. Chaos Keaton is what Nicole called him last night.
Yes.
But yeah, so what did you think of these items? Like, was there anything that stood out to you? People going for, maybe people not going for, you know, the strategy, pulling money?
I did kind of notice a trend where, like, as things went on, like, everything just got like more and more and more expensive. Like, I don't know, it was just interesting how that just kept trending upward. You know, some people were like naturally like holding out for like a reward or like something like game related. You know, and like Keaton, I appreciated the strategy of betting everything up. Maybe he leaned into it more heavily as time went on, and that's why it kept going up. Yeah.
The first item being the, you know, the single bed isolation. We get a nice confessional here from Jake that's like, I don't want to be, isolated from the group, in the beginning of the game. It seemed like when I was talking to Nicole last night that wasn't really what it was in totality, and I feel like the cast didn't really get a good grip on what that was. She said that it was your own bed in a room with like a whole bunch of people. So I guess people were bunking up, and you had the opportunity to just like sleep by yourself. So I think the beginning of the bidding probably was stunted there because of people not wanting to be alone.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. And like it seems like relatively like easy enough to like misunderstand that, oh, you get to sleep, like if you hear like I get to sleep alone, but like miss the part where it's in the big room with all the bunks. Yeah. Absolutely. So that was like a steal of a deal.
Yeah, he got it for I think $50 or something. So
$200.
$200.
My memory's not that good. I wrote it down.
Nice.
Yeah. Then Zoe gets the second one at a discount of $120.
Damn, bargain.
Yeah.
It was interesting to see. It was funny to watch, how hard Erica was going for the wine, having seen her, intro video saying that, she played Ascendance, under the influence a little bit.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to see, her really wanting that, wine reward, and Thomas also wanting the wine reward as well. Did she end up getting that? I don't remember.
Yeah, so yeah, she got, so she was super into it when she heard wine. She's like, yes, wine. I'm on it. I want this. But then, after a few like rounds of bidding on the item, Nicole also mentions, Nicole or Matty Ice, I forget which one, but like, oh, there's also like cheese and crackers. So she's like, cheese, okay, it's over. Like 1,500. I don't know.
The cheese just put it over the top for her. She
Next
just
level. Yeah. And then I like how she like strategically like chose, I think, I forget if it was Jake or Ryan that was like bidding against her, but basically like included them in on the reward to kind of, I thought that was nice.
Yeah, it's interesting. Kind of a reward there for 3 people. That could be like something that builds like some sort of group. I know there was 2 of those. And then the other thing that I thought was fun to watch was Hot Girl Chris getting the, I think it was a covered item or a message that he got to read to himself. And I think it seemed like he was like, it's something that you have to crawl for, and he's like, I'm not going to do that. So
yeah,
that's just not going to happen.
Yeah. Well, I listened to yours and Nicole's like the last podcast that you recorded for Lost at Sea, and saying like, yeah, like he left like a full 30 seconds early, and he's like, no, I'm good. I was like, okay, that's either that's I'm confident in your memory, or what we see later in the confessional is, I read something about crawling and I'm good.
That's crazy. That's just Hot Girl Chris, I guess. He just
no, I love it. It's very like boss energy. Like I got this. I love it.
So that basically concludes. We get a kind of a cliffhanger with, going into the next challenge. It seems like they're going to be doing it right after this auction's happening. But I wanted to ask you, Sam, who are you, after this episode, who are you feeling good about? I know, you have your draft team, but like in general, who do you feel good about, and maybe who do you not feel so great about?
I feel really good about, let me get a picture up here. I need the visual. All right. I feel okay, not so much based off of the episode as a whole, because I don't feel like I've seen Thomas like a ton in the episode, but Definitely some like one-on-one conversations here and there, but just the amount of people that said that they either knew Thomas or, and like, I don't think there was anything negative. Like, nobody had a negative relationship or previous encounter, or like maybe didn't play the game on like, or played the game on opposite sides or whatever. So I will honorable mention to Thomas, but Jodalee, Melissa, oh gosh, I don't know. There's just so many like strong people.
There's a lot of,
Yeah,
and it's just like, it's so early to tell.
it really is.
I will say, I think that based off of, and this is just going off of drafts, like people that I think were undervalued in drafts that I think had a really good episode, I would say, I think I agree with Thomas. I think Thomas what probably should have been drafted higher in some of the drafts that I've seen. I drafted Thomas, luckily, in my draft. Jake, I think, had a really fun episode. I think he connected well with a lot of people, and I think it kind of, he's like, there was some people that I felt like kind of felt a little bit nervous, and I felt like Jake was like not nervous at all. Like I felt like people would approach Jake and Jake would approach people, and that just like give off like very calm, vibes. So those are the two people that I would say were maybe slept on in the preseason, basically.
Yeah, and let me see if there's anybody else somebody who got maybe drafted further down. Yeah, I think, Kennedy got drafted. I drafted her. She was my last draft pick. And I like, in a lot of the group conversations that we got to see, like she was kind of a part of it, of a lot of them. And so I think she definitely, took the time to really try to get to know everybody and like hopefully, starting those like social connections that will help her down the road if she does kind of get into a sticky spot. So I see maybe laying the foundation for a good game.
So those are the people we feel good about. Is there anybody that you feel like might be in a little trouble early on? Somebody maybe that you could see potentially being in trouble in this next upcoming vote here?
I think one person that I didn't see participating, like actively participating in some of the conversations was Marvin. But I'm not so worried that like I just didn't really see him at all. He was there, but he wasn't actively participating. So other people may have maybe had a bit more of an impact that way in like some of the conversations of the night, maybe just not making that connection. So if he is at risk, maybe just not having people who are just, have that pull towards you and it's an easy vote. Of course, we don't see everything. Of course, there could have been some conversations and some connections being made there that we just haven't had a chance to see yet, but.
I agree. I have three people kind of in mind that I could see potentially being in trouble. I think Keaton is going to be in trouble pretty much like a lot of the time, just based on the way he plays. He's just super out there. It's so fun to watch, of course, but I think people might, want to get rid of Keaton just because he might be perceived as a wild card. Something to I think about, just based solely off of this episode, not solely based off of the way she's been playing, is Zoe, just because of how much she was able to like acquire during the auction. I don't know if people are going to read that like, oh, she has all this stuff, kind of go after Zoe here. And then less, as we've been talking, I feel bad about like Paul. I think Paul actually, as we've been talking just now, I feel better about Paul than I did probably going into this podcast. I do think he, has had some decent conversations and kind of was like really trying to connect with people. He had a funny confessional where he's like, I feel very like over 30 here.
Yeah.
Was which was
Yeah.
super fun. But I feel like he did great, kind of integrating himself with people trying to get in the conversation, shit, whatnot. So those are the three people that I'm a little bit hesitant. Maybe those could be targets coming into this vote, but you never know.
Yeah, so I had a thought about Paul and a thought about Zoe. For Paul had a really funny segment where he was just kind of like talking to, I'm assuming like production or talk to himself, saying like, oh gosh, I'm not in any of these conversations. And then he like runs off, and then like you see him like try to like join a conversation, and then he just kind of like eases into it. And I think, I guess this next thing applies to both Paul and Zoe, but a lot of these people aren't starting off fresh, right? Where you might have a neutral relationship, or you might be a little bit above neutral, where a good acquaintance, or like and kind of goes up and down from there. Well, Paul is automatically at neutral and has to work that much harder to make those connections. So I think even given that, definitely impressed with how friendly and sociable, and just like he just kind of getting in there and doing the thing, which is great. Zoe, kind of the same thing. I think coming in from a similar position to Paul, but I haven't seen as much of that connecting, and then maybe some things that are going, like you mentioned, be like create a up the threat level a little bit. And I kind of get a little bit of, I've really enjoyed how, like in Zoe's confessionals, how like she talks about the strategy behind her decisions. So I love that. But point of what I'm trying to say is, I get more GameBot vibes from Zoe. And so although I love the strategy that I'm hearing, I'm not sure that it's translating into like those personal bonds or relationships, at least from this very first episode. Yeah.
There's something that's interesting about what you said about Paul in particular, where there's people coming into the game that are like going to be working from neutral, don't know anybody. It's interesting to kind of think about maybe like those people compared to people that maybe like Drew, that have people that are like, he's obviously a polarizing character coming into this. People like Jodie have mentioned, wanting to go at, like not wanting to go after, but like not having the best, game terms with Drew. So maybe Drew's coming into this having to work on that. It's just interesting to see the balance between whether the target shifts to a person that is at neutral trying to work their way up, or do I want to get rid of the person that I know was against me previously, and like weighing those kind of options is going to be interesting, because I think you want to keep in the people that as opposed to maybe a Paul that you don't know if he's going to backstab you or not, whereas you kind of know what Drew's about and you don't know what Paul's about.
Yeah, no, that is really interesting. And I think it depends too, I guess there's a couple of different ways that like Drew could approach it, where, if he's aware of, those people that, might look at him like, oh, you're a threat, maybe he can weaponize that and use that, like, play the shield card or whatever, or even like, the perception is that you and I don't get along. Why don't we work together like on the low? No one will suspect it. There's different ways that you can kind of turn that around, I think. But I forget what your question was. I just went off on a tangent.
I didn't even ask a question. I kind of just
okay.
General statement.
Yeah.
But yeah, Sam, that's all I had. I think this episode was super fun. I think I can tell the upping of production as a whole. They have a lot of people out there working with them. I think they only had 4 or 5 production members the first season, and Nicole mentioned now having close to like I think 20 or something. the camera looked great. The sound I thought was perfect. You could hear so much better than in season 1. So I think this season's going to be, just even better than what, how great season 1 was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I totally agree. I have like some sensory issues and ADHD, very easily distracted. So I did struggle a little bit with like some of the audio stuff in the first season. You know, I'm literally distracted by anything. So it was like, because there were like added distractions or like I couldn't hear or whatever, I would literally watch everything with subtitles because processing information. But I found with this, like, it was so easy to follow and the pacing was excellent in my opinion. When I finished the episode, my first thought was, I'm like, wow, I feel like I actually know these people. Like I kind of know, even like with all the preseason material too, getting to know them in, where they're comfortable versus coming into the game and how now they're starting to interact with people. I feel like I at least have a bit of an idea of what these people are about, what type of game they might want to play, what type of game they actually get to play. That's a different story. But yeah, overall, I think it was a great episode. And like I'm like, can it be Thursday? Like I want to watch more, please.
So close, so close. But yes, thank you again, Sam, for coming on the podcast. Just a few quick notes for the people listening at home. I will be interviewing the first person eliminated from the game. So an exit interview will most likely come out hopefully sometime this weekend. And obviously, the next episode is on Thursday, like we have mentioned here. I believe it's 9 o'clock, maybe 8 o'clock. I think 9 o'clock though. So go over to the Ascendance YouTube to watch that. And hell, like and subscribe this video if you enjoyed this content. But other than that, Sam, thank you so much for coming on. As always, much appreciated. I hope your draft doesn't take a hit on Thursday. And
fingers crossed.
And we keep it rolling. So yeah,